terrorist actions against any country. Let's go to the next one. Well, other measures that has been taken, for example, as I explained, it's difficult to have the opportunity to transfer any financial resources abroad. With the ban of regular bilateral trade between the US and Cuba, that is difficult for us to buy anything, of course, importing anything from the US market that is just 90 miles from Cuba. Also, the US government allows US courts to file some lawsuits against individual or company in any country. What is the problem? I would like to explain. Before 1959, before the Cuban Revolution, the US companies dominated completely the Cuban economy. 70% of the land in Cuba, productive land, was in the hands of the United States Free Company and others. 50% of the electricity supply belongs to the US companies. The banking system was managed by the US banks. And if you see to any sector in the Cuban economy, they were a huge presence of the US companies. When the Cuban Revolution triumphed in the first year in 1959, one of the decisions was to nationalize all these properties. And we offered to many countries, because French company, from other countries, Italian companies, Spanish companies who were also in Cuba, and we offered a compensation. They accepted, except US. They said not, because they believed at that time that in few days this revolution cannot resist in front of the US. And they are going to defeat the revolution in few days, and they are going to come back to Cuba to recover their ownership of these sectors. But it didn't happen. And we are still 65 years later, we are still stand up, and won't happen in the future. So, through these lawsuits, any citizen, not only Americans, even Cubans that went to US after the revolution, they can apply for recompensation, and well, they can present in the US courts these demands. It's open. And this is a treaty not only for Cuba, for any foreign company that invests in Cuba. They can say, you are investing in the land that belongs to the United Free Company, so you can be demanded in the US courts. This is the situation. It's trying to avoid any kind of foreign investment in Cuba, and to also to put pressure on the foreign companies not to participate, not to invest in Cuba. We can continue. Or the travel, because I explained that the US citizen cannot travel to Cuba by free, but they also expand these restrictions to other countries. I explained, for example, there is one example. On September 30, 2024, a high official from Honduras was denied renewal of her ESTA visa with her Spanish passport because he had traveled to Cuba. The Europeans have this ESTA visa. It's an electronic system for travel authorization. If you want to go to US from Europe, a European want to go to US, they can apply for e-visa, and in the moment they can use the code and he can travel to US. But if you have traveled to Cuba, when you apply for the e-visa, they deny it. They say no, you don't have the right to apply for ESTA visa, for the e-visa, because you before travel to Cuba. So you can get an appointment in the consulate, you can go, they will interview, make an interview, and at the end they will deny the visa to US because you before travel to Cuba. Is it the real situation? When I say that we almost to reach 5 million visitors to Cuba, 1 million, more than 1 million went from Europe. Nowadays, it's not more than 300,000 per year. The people are scared to go to Cuba because they lost the opportunity to travel to US, and is, of course, there are a lot of connections between European countries and US. It's not the case of India. Don't scare. So you are not in this season. You can travel to Cuba and then to US. It's not a problem. But unfortunately, not many Indians travel to Cuba. Last year was 20,000 only.